Coach Ferriss's legacy will be carried on through his players.
Delta State baseball is known around the country, there's no question about it. And it started with Boo Ferriss.
Coach Ferriss is an amazing man, a father figure for all of us that were blessed to play for him.
Unique and incredible and uplifting and encouraging and fun and rewarding, all those things.
I don't know of anybody that would ever say a bad word about Coach Ferriss.
Coach Ferriss has been in my life for 40 years. Playing for him on that level. Then as I went out and was a high school coach, and just him encouraging me and kind of investing in me as a high school coach, and then getting the opportunity to come back here. For the last 25 years I've been able to be in the same town and had the privilege of being able to see him on a daily basis, talk to him, and I'll miss that. I'll certainly miss that.
He taught guys how to play baseball or how to become better men and be better at their craft and their sport. He knew nothing about archiving in museums, but he taught me how to become a better archivist and a better curator.
And one time I asked him, how do you know I'll remember all this? And he said, because I care. And he truly did care.
Very lucky to have him not only pour into my life the history of Delta State baseball, but also being willing to pour into me and teach me that relationships ultimately so much more important than anything else.
Wonderful gentleman. In addition to being a great athlete, he treated me like a son. He's going to be sorely missed.
And while baseball, of course, is very important, how you turn out in life matters to him more than the baseball. In the 40 some odd years since I was here playing baseball, he has cared about each and every one of us.
He was a wonderful coach, but more importantly, he was a mentor and a friend, and as I said earlier, a father figure for all of us. And the experience that I had here playing for him, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
There is going to be, through the years, through the generations, his influence is going to last forever.
He knew that I was sort of down the left field line, being nervous and worried and scared. And he made his way down to where I was just to say, you're going to be okay. And that's the way it was. That's what these stories are going to tell you. That he had a sensitivity about that. He cared for the way we felt. He cared for all his players. And that never stopped. That never stopped.
I had been at East Mississippi Junior College and played baseball over there, and I was looking for a place to go. And so Horace McCool, who was the football coach, was recruiting players, and he came to East Mississippi, and we were talking about maybe a possibility of coming over and working as a manager in football, but I wanted to play baseball, so he put me in contact with Coach Ferriss. And I had some friends that knew him very well that recommended me. And so I visited with him in the summer. And between Coach Ferriss and Coach McCool, I came to Delta State.
You know, I'm not going to dwell on that too much. I think I'll always remember and feel their presence and remember things they've said. You know, I think that impact and their influence will stay with me, and therefore it'll stay with the program. I'm committed to continuing to try and keep their reputation and their legacy out in front of our players so they know who they are. And as you guys come into this program, I always hope we can teach them about those two coaches. And yeah, it'll be different. I've had the opportunity for Well, Coach Ferriss has been in my life for 40 years. Playing for him on that level.
He had a smile, always knew everybody's name. It's amazing how bright and sharp he remained, even until last year or two, I guess. I mean, he was as sharp as a tack. And because of that, I know he did a great job coaching these kids in the fundamentals of the game of baseball. Highly organized, highly structured. He coached baseball like you want to have your son play for him.
We went to University of Arkansas Little Rock to play. The umpire before the game asked Boo for his autograph while they're exchanging lineup cards. Well, during the course of the game, Boo actually got thrown out of the game, and the whole way out he's telling the umpire, "Oh man, I'm new to this game. I don't know anything about this call. You must know more than me."
I know I was lucky to get to do this with him. He taught guys how to play baseball or how to become better men and be better at their craft and their sport. He knew nothing about archiving in museums, but he taught me how to become a better archivist and a better curator, just because he's good and he's invested in people. And he wanted to know me, and he wanted to know what I do, how I do it, and to encourage me to keep doing it better.
I think, in case folks don't know it, in those days the schedule was awesome. We played Alabama, we played Ole Miss, we played Mississippi State, Notre Dame, I could keep naming. We had as many Division I games as we did Division II, and there would be 2,000 or 3,000 people here when we played Ole Miss or Mississippi State, something like that. The support was unbelievable. It was before the internet and streaming, and not only local, but people from all over.
I knew of Boo's Red Sox, fame when I got here, and matter of fact, the first fall that we were here together is when the Yankees and the Red Sox finished in 1978, and they had a one-game playoff, and we were all, some of us were pulling for the Red Sox, but some others were pulling for the Yankees, and Bucky Dent hit the very memorable home run that cost the Red Sox a chance to go to the postseason. And I know Boo was going to go to the postseason games, and we would have had some time off, but I know it was disappointing for him. And then, it wasn't many years later that I was a member of the New York Mets and played the Boston Red Sox in the World Series. And unfortunately, I had a broken arm and was not in uniform for that. And I even had people here in the Delta ask me, well, are you going to pull for the Red Sox because of Coach Ferriss, or are you going to pull for the Mets? And obviously that was not a very wise question, because as much as I loved Coach Ferriss and loved his legacy with the Red Sox, I was a member of the New York Mets, and that was certainly the answer was quite easy to say the Mets.
To say that Coach Ferriss has an immense amount of faith would be an understatement, because he had enough faith in me, who did not know anything about baseball, to build a baseball museum about him. And that's pretty audacious to think about, originally.
Well, Miriam, I want to say something about her, because she sat out there with a lot of us and froze and was very patient, and I sat in her area many a game, and that wasn't always easy to listen to what sometimes she had to hear. So she was a trooper.
When I came here in 2001, 2002, and I got to start learning the history of Delta State baseball, I was lucky enough to have Coach Ferriss being willing to sit with me in the office, talk to me about our history, share our history with us, and certainly one of the things that I truly cherish about my time here at Delta State.
Of course, there's dozens, if not hundreds, of stories, and some of the most memorable ones for me, I'm sure, have been retold and retold. But one of maybe the most personal and private moments that I had with Coach Ferriss, that for me, looking back, was funny in a way, it took place on the opening day of my very first year. And I was a freshman, and Delta State's team in 1974 was extraordinarily good, and it was made up mostly of experienced senior players. Most of the team were senior players, and so I was a freshman. I was an outfielder. I was probably second on the depth chart, if you would put it that way. Never ever expecting to play, at least not on that first day of the season, that very first time. And we were on the road to Arkansas State. And I was sort of naively thinking, this is great, I'm just happy to be on the bus. I'm just happy to have a uniform and be on the road trip and be ready to see what college baseball is all about. And so we're ready, we've dressed, we've come to the field, we're getting ready to play. And Coach Ferriss walks down to where I was sort of getting loose, and it was just he and I. And he said, I've just found out that Arkansas State is going to pitch a left-handed pitcher against us in the first game. So you're going to be in the lineup. And we had a extraordinarily gifted outfielder named Tommy Mims who batted left-handed and just didn't hit very well against left-handed pitchers. And so Coach Ferriss said, you're going to start the game in right field and you're going to bat third. And knowing that at some point probably a right-handed reliever was going to come in for Arkansas State and Tommy Mims was going to get right back in the lineup and I was going to go right back to the bench. But that moment, as you can imagine, my stomach went into my throat, my heart sunk and got about 100 pounds heavier than it had been. And he could see it on my face. I'm sure he could. He could see it on my face that what? What? And he looked at me as he would to any player. He said, you're going to be fine. It's just like high school. And I said, Coach, this doesn't feel like high school at all. He said, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And we were fine. It happened like he said it would happen. But I remember being more nervous in any situation that I've ever been with a baseball uniform on than the top of that first inning when I had to go to bat in the very first game of the very first year because they were pitching a left-handed pitcher at Arkansas State.
If there was an umpire that probably didn't like Coach Ferriss, it was one out of Arkansas, Little Rock, where he didn't get just thrown out of the game, he got thrown out of the park. And so Coach Ferriss goes, he of course spits on the umpire for several minutes, saying, oh, I've never played this game, I don't know what this is, I've never been here. Made the umpire feel about an inch tall before he left. And so he goes up into the parking lot by the bus. And next thing you know, he's giving signals down to the guy at the dugout, and the dugout coach is giving the signals to the third base coach. And so it's just one big fiasco, and it's probably the funniest thing I ever saw. And the way he was doing it, he thought he was being real shifty. Right. So it was comical. We loved it.
Oh, it was great. Of course, Coach Kinnison playing for him, and just recently watching that video again of when they won the national title and Coach Kinnison going up into the stands to take that trophy to Coach Ferriss. That just means so much. Because I know Coach Kinnison, it meant so much to him because he didn't think that they got so close and wanted to win it when he was a player for Coach Ferriss. So it really meant a lot to him just to be able to say, hey, look, we finally got it done for you, and to take that up there to him. So I know that meant a lot, and they had a special relationship.
Everywhere we went, everyone knew Uncle Boo. Everyone called him Coach Ferriss. Being in Kansas City, growing up in a bigger town, you know people, but not when you come to this kind of city. So it was nice being here, and you feel connected in a way that you don't with anything else.
About 2 weeks later, he called me, and he said, I checked the rotation. That's Clemens coming back for the Red Sox, for the Yankees, who's former Red Sox, Roger Clemens, pitcher. He said, "But I think you're okay. Just go to the will call window and we'll have it in your name." So we go. We fly up there. 9 random people from the Mississippi Delta go to that. Come into Fenway Park, and I go up to the will call window, and I'm like, "I'm John Cox." And they said, "Okay." And they go through and they hand the ticket and they sign. And they said, "It's compliments of the organization." And I was like, "Okay." So I go to the guys, we give the tickets, we walk into Fenway. None of us have ever been to Fenway Park before. So we walk in, we're kind of above it. We can see the field, they're out there taking batting practice. The Yankees were actually taking batting practice at that time. And Saturday afternoon, beautiful day in Boston in July. And we walk up to the usher and we're like, "Well, where's this ticket?" And he looks at this gallery of guys with me kind of, and looks and he said, "Man, who do y'all know?" Or something like that. And he's like, "Well," I said, "Where are our tickets?" He said, "Well, do you see Derek Jeter, who's Yankees shortstops? They're taking batting practice down on the field." I'm like, "Yes, sir." He goes, "When you get to him, you've gone too far." So we literally, our feet were on the Red Sox dugout. And so we went right there. And it was so funny because we sat down, some of the other people from Boston, of course, filled in. It was a packed game, sold out. And they were all like, "Where are you people from?" Because they recognize our accents. And we're like, "Well, we're from Mississippi." And they're like, "Well, why does someone from Mississippi come to Fenway Park? What brings you to this?" And we're like, "Well, our university, our college, guy played here, coached with us." And they were like, "Well, who?" And we would say, "Well, Boo Ferriss." And they would look and they would like, "Dave Ferriss?" And it was like a god, like we had unleashed. So from then on, we were like surrounded by these people from Boston that would come up. But I always think whenever they say, when that usher asks, who do you know, or do you know somebody? Because we were the last people that looked like we needed to be sitting by the Red Sox dugout. And we were always like, "Yeah, we know somebody. We know Boo Ferriss."
It's pretty amazing every day to think that the guy that you're playing for pitched a shutout in the '46 World Series. His best friend was Ted Williams, so you listen pretty intently to what he has to offer to you, because he definitely knows what he's talking about.
Growing up in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Coach was just back at Delta State, and they came down to play what was in Mississippi Southern College. And my dad was the sports information director at Mississippi Southern, and he was out on the field talking to Coach Ferriss before the game when they were taking BP, and he waved at me to come out there, and he introduced him to me as the greatest baseball player that Mississippi has ever produced. And of course, I was, again, 9 years old, Little League. Baseball was everything. I knew every lineup, everybody's batting average. And when Dad said that to me, it got my attention. But, and he was right. He's still the greatest baseball player we've ever produced. But what Dad didn't tell me is that he's the greatest man, the greatest gentleman is the way I should put it.
When Ted Williams came and did a hitting clinic, Coach gave me a ball and said, "Get Ted to sign it." And I said, "Coach, I'm not into autographs." He said, "Take this ball, walk over there, get Ted Williams to sign that ball." And he also gave me a postcard. He said, "Get Ted to sign both of these things. It'll mean something one day." I said, "Okay, Coach." So I go and Ted signs the ball. Ted signs the card. I gave the card to my daughter, Laura, and she still has it. And then I had Ted's signature. Well, the next thing I know, down through the years, Coach, here comes, Bob Feller to do a clinic. So I take the ball and I get Bob Feller to sign it. And then Robin Roberts signs it. And then I get all these people, and then suddenly I look down and then, I got Whitey Ford on it. And he had done an event over at Ole Miss after I got over there. And so I have this ball, and it's got like 6 or 7 Hall of Famers on it, and plus obviously I got a coach to sign it too, So that was something that I'm certainly glad.
But our friendship before the game and after the game, always gentle, always great comments. Always, you can see his kids were very well schooled, very well coached, treated the opposing team very well, and so we didn't mind playing Delta State. Now, it was not an easy series for us because we always played them in midweek games, and we had SEC weekends either behind or coming up. But he had the same problem when he got into his conference, so we always seemed to get Boo's #1 pitcher. I always kid him about that. I said, don't you save your number one for the conference weekends?
You know, the first day of practice in 1966, after practice, Coach Ferriss said we're having a revival at our church, and we'd like to invite the whole team to the revival. And I've had a lot of coaches in my life, but that's the first time I've ever heard a coach mention Christianity.
Everyone used to make fun of my name, or everyone spells it with one S. And then finally one time I was like, yeah, just Google Boo Ferriss, and immediately everyone's amazed. Like, wait, you're related to him? Like, I am. So you can, and like, I didn't know what any of the numbers meant. I just knew they were impressive, all his baseball stats, so I just went along with it, like, and again, my family is so modest, they never talked about it. And so as I came to understand more about the significance of his history, I started talking about it more, and I'm like, why does no one talk about this? Like, why don't, it's like, I thought maybe I was missing some facts or something, and it wasn't as big of a deal. And just that my family doesn't talk about these kinds of things. So
I'm so proud of my relationship with Coach, and like I said, he was like a dad to me. And I had been raised by my grandparents, so I needed some adult supervision when I came down here. And when Ole Miss offered me the job in 1981, I really didn't want to go, and I didn't want to leave. This was my school. And my wife was from here, and her parents from here, and she had been born and raised here, and my two children were born here, and I really was, really torn about what to do. And I went to see Coach, and I sat down in his living room, and we started talking, and he knew that Warner had offered me the job. And I told him I was thinking about not taking it, Well, for the next 30 minutes, Coach Ferriss convinced me that this was the right move for my career. And, and after, I had his blessing, because I think that was one of the things I was really concerned about. Well, how's Coach going to take this, And he convinced me that, if I was going to go in my, career path, that, being the sports and motion director in the Southeastern Conference was one of the top jobs in the country. And so I went home and I told Paula that Coach had pretty much given us the blessing to go, and that I felt like that after talking to him, it was the right move. But I can truly say that there's not a day that goes by that I haven't missed Delta State.
He was a master at keeping up with in his world, what was going on. He was a great Christian. He was everything. I mean,
probably the thing that still makes one of the deepest impressions to me is my junior year. I had a very bad year personally. I didn't play well at all. The team was good, but I didn't play well. And I actually thought going into the closing conference with Coach, I said, well, I was thinking he may actually just tell me don't come back. So he met with me privately and said, you didn't have a great year, but you worked hard in the classroom, you took care of your business. He actually gave me a little more scholarship. So that made an impression on me like none other. It just spoke to his character and the class of gentleman that he was.
Well, Coach Ferriss was all about being simple. One of the things he always said in the locker room after the game was over, he said, ooh, my name was Ernie, that was my nickname. Ooh, Ernie, always say please and thank you. You'll go a long way in life. You'll be successful. And I always wanted to know what this success stuff was about. But saying please and saying thank you stuck with me, and it's such a nice thing to do, and it gets you a long way with anybody you're talking to, a customer, your mom and dad, anybody. And it just stuck with me. The way he said it, it's always stuck with me.
Be able to sit down with him and just talk baseball, and he'd be talking about players. He'd ask about guys that I was teammates with and how they were doing, what they were doing now, and just everything. I mean, he just wanted to know what was going on, and he was very involved at all times with everything going on around here.
The two words that I think about him is loyal and humble. And probably a lot of people like me have received mail from him. From time to time, he would write me a note that I was at the game and he saw me and he appreciated it. And he would always send pictures of my children and then later my grandchildren when they made the newspaper. because he truly cared, and I never played baseball nor any of my family, but he cared.
When you're 18, 19-year-old kid and you are doing, you know, what's a daily, you know, sort of a daily thing, practice and games and all the things that come with it, you don't necessarily appreciate how different this program is and how much Coach Ferriss in particular would care for his players. You learn that, yes, while you're here, but you certainly learn it in the years afterwards and the decades afterwards. As anybody will tell you, he would stay in touch with us, he would write us letters, he would send us newspaper clippings, he would invite us back to campus, he would rejoice when we got married, when we had kids, when we, you know, had new jobs. He was always interested in our well-being.
But he's special. And I didn't have the privilege of playing for him just 1 year, because my senior year, he went to Mississippi State, Sister Athletic Director. But if I had 3 or 4 years, like a lot of these guys, man, you know, they were truly blessed. Yeah. Love Coach Ferriss, I love Delta State.
People who have had the privilege of playing here at Delta State in general, but those of us that had this specific privilege of playing for Coach Ferriss will tell you that we appreciate it more now than maybe we did then.
I think Boo's legacy is on the field. His name's in the field. He's got the museum here. But the thing is, legacy is going to be his former players, remembering Boo Ferriss, Coach Ferriss, and what he did for him, not only on the field, but the type of person he was off the field. Made him men, character, loyalty, perseverance, love.
Coach Ferriss's legacy will be carried on through his players. So the legacy is unlimited. And not only that, but the players will be telling their children about Coach Ferriss. So his legacy will live on and on and on.
But I'm certainly going to be very saddened. It's a void in my life. But I know he lived a wonderful life. He did so many wonderful things. And he's at peace now. And that's what he wanted in the end.
And you know, and that's one thing I want people to remember is we've lost 2 great coaches this year. And Coach Ferriss was larger than life, and to all of us. But Coach Marchant invested a lot in this program as well, invested a lot in me, gave me an opportunity to come back and be his assistant coach. And so certainly I have great respect and feel the loss of both of those. But his impact will live on. You know, none of that ends with his passing. It still will live on, and all those guys who played for him. Hopefully, as we continue to try and do the same things in the program now that we've done in the past, you know, it all stems from him through Coach Marchant to hopefully we're doing the right things now. And so I think their impact stays with us. It'll always stay with me personally. And as I said, my relationship has been one where I've been able to sit close by and see him on a daily basis for 25 years. But in a lot of ways, my relationship is no different than so many guys that played for him. He's filled a role as a role model, a dad, and you know, that's true for so many guys.